Great, so we'll call the regular meeting of Township Council for Monday, April 7th to order. And I'd like to begin by acknowledging the traditional territories of the Coast Salish peoples, and in particular, our valued relationships with the Quetzalcoatl, Matsqui, and Semiahmoo First Nations. Can someone like to move A1 amended to remove delegation C1, which is withdrawn, moved by Councillor Rint, seconded by Councillor Bailey. Is there any discussion on A1? Let's see, no question on A1. That carries unanimously. Move on to adoption of the regular meeting minutes from March 24th, moved by Councillor Rint, seconded by Councillor Ferguson. Is there any discussion on B1? So now I'll call the question on B1. That carries unanimously. We have a first delegation then from Mountain Valley Express, Lee Haber. Haber. Yeah, great. Great to see you here. Please go ahead. Yeah. Introduce yourself to council, and you have 5 minutes.
So yeah, my name is Lee Haber. I'm the Director of Strategy and Partnerships at Mountain Valley Express. I do have some slides. That's the one.
Here we go. Thank you. Got lost.
Sure. Okay, awesome. So, my name is Lee Haber. I represent Mountain Valley Express. We are a nonprofit society committed to bringing world-class regional rail to the south coast of British Columbia. Though our region and province have made significant strides in improving transit in recent decades, one key piece of the transit puzzle is still missing: frequent regional rail service. Regions of a similar scale and level of ambition are already served with extensive regional rail networks. For example, Brisbane, Australia, a metropolitan area with a population similar to ours, has a 689-kilometer-long regional rail network that connects its urban area with regional destinations and neighboring cities. Without world-class regional rail, our region risks falling behind other global cities, as well as failing to meet important environmental and equity goals. Regional rail makes sense for Metro Vancouver, and it especially makes sense for the Township of Langley. Regional rail will reduce congestion by providing a compelling alternative to vehicular travel. The Township of Langley will also be directly served by what will likely be the first phase of regional rail from Vancouver to Abbotsford. From Carville to Waterfront Station, we estimate that a trip would only take 25 minutes. The implementation of BRT on 200 Street would connect communities on both sides of Highway 1 with fast and frequent regional rail. However, regional rail would not only help connect the Township of Langley with Surrey or downtown Vancouver, but it would also conveniently connect it with important regional destinations such as YVR and both major ferry terminals, as well as destinations in the neighboring Fraser Valley and Sea to Sky regions. Regional rail will be a game changer for this province, and Langley is no exception. We recognize that our region has other transit priorities. We are not demanding that regional rail be put to the front of the table. Instead, we are requesting a minimum set of resources and attention be given to regional rail so that key planning issues are resolved years before any shovels are put into the ground. We also want to be clear that this open letter is about the concept of regional rail and is not about our organization nor of our particular vision. We believe regional rail is an idea whose time has come, and all proposals merit further study. Our request to the Township of Langley is to sign our open letter to the Minister of Transportation and Transit, Mike Farnworth, and the TransLink Board, calling on them to study regional rail and integration with rapid transit on a variety of productive corridors and establish a directory of properties that should be preserved and monitored to ensure that they are designed to accommodate future regional rail once we implement it. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Councillor Bailey has a question. We'll start there. Councillor Bailey, go ahead.
So I have to ask the question, how does this compare in cost? And I'm betting it's going to be a lot faster in that than the proposals for interurban.
So I think it's important to recognize that this proposal that we're working on, it has a different quarter than what's proposed for the interurban. And so it's meant to serve the entire South Coast versus the interurban, which is primarily focused on the Fraser Valley. Our early cost figures estimate that the entire network, which spans 350 kilometers from Chilliwack to Whistler and to Tsawwassen, is going to cost roughly about $12 billion. So it's not going to be cheap, but this is something, we are a rapidly growing region. I'm certainly seeing it here in the township. We need to be building the kind of rail network that's going to serve a regional population that's soon going to be 4 million. We got to be going to where the puck is, not to where it is right now.
Yeah, the reason I ask that is probably pretty obvious. I like regional travel. To me, it doesn't have to be super fast. It has to move people. And I have been looking at the interurban, and to me, it makes an awful lot of sense. So that's why this would be in competition to the interurban. So I'm definitely interested in hearing what you have to say in the future.
Yeah, well, thank you for your questions, Councillor Bailey.
Councillor Richter?
Yeah, so your $12 billion price tag, does that include all the legs that you've got on that one slide?
Yeah, so that includes all the legs, and we're also including one that hasn't been added to that map, which is one that extends to South Surrey and Semiahmoo. I can give you a much more precise cost figure for the phase one. We're estimating that that's going to cost about $3.9 billion. And that's going to extend from downtown Vancouver to Abbotsford. So there will be a station at Carbolt as part of phase one. And there will be 2 legs, one that goes into central Abbotsford and then one that goes to Abbotsford International Airport.
Okay, and now where do you anticipate the funding coming from for this?
So great question. We're looking at several different options and options that don't require funding from higher levels of government. So we're looking at the Canada Infrastructure Bank. We've had a few conversations with them. They've indicated support for the concept. The purpose of the Canada Infrastructure Bank is to leverage private sector investment in infrastructure, which is certainly a possibility for this project. Other sources of funding could include land value capture mechanisms, which basically take advantage of the fact that properties and development become more desirable near stations. And this is a mechanism that's being used in Europe and in Asia to fund large transit infrastructure projects.
Okay, so this, I'm assuming then that this will be a privately held and run?
That is a possibility. I mean, as a nonprofit, we're agnostic to different mechanisms. I mean, we would certainly love it to more if the province decided to commit to regional rail. But what we're seeing in North America, and we saw this in Quebec and Montreal, that third-party entities, in that case, it was the Quebec Pension Fund, basically took the initiative in making a comprehensive regional transit system happen there. And we also see in the United States that are also the private sector. There's a company called Brightline. They've built a railway between Orlando and Florida, and that's led by the private sector. So yes, I mean, it could be led by the private sector, it could be led by a third party, but it could also be led by the provincial government.
Okay, all right, well, it's an interesting concept. As always, money is top of mind for pretty much everybody these days. But thank you for your presentation.
Thank you.
Councillor Kunst?
Yeah, similar question. The interurban runs on already existing rails. Would this be a similar premise? Like is that sort of the idea, is to run on the same?
For the most part, our planned network does not run on existing rail corridors. I want to be also clear that where we do run on rail corridors, the intention is to build new tracks that are dedicated to passenger rail service. If I'm talking about like the section of our network that goes into the Fraser Valley, for the most part, it's focused on the median of Highway 1.
So you have the province here and TransLink on your literature. Have you gotten anywhere with them, or is this conversations that you're looking forward to having?
So great question. With the province, we had a meeting with the previous minister in charge of State of Infrastructure and Transit, Dan Coulter. We haven't had any meetings yet with the current minister. We certainly would love to have that meeting. And then in terms of speaking with TransLink, we've spoken to some staff at TransLink, but not yet with high-level officials.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks. I haven't seen the open letter, so I don't know if that was provided to us in advance of the delegation.
The open letter is, I mean, it's basically the main points are those texts. I can send the actual copy of the letter.
I think that would be good. Yeah,
Okay.
if council wanted to consider signing something,
Yeah.
it's probably good that it has the fine print, I think. Maybe if there's something in there, there's just to make sure that it knows what it's signing if it wants to follow up on this.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
I'll send a copy of later, but I'll reiterate that basically the rest of the open letter is basically making the case for why we need to be, planning for a future with regional rail. The main points are the 2 points listed there, which are we need to start planning for this and we need to preserve corridors and station sites for its future implementation.
Yeah, and I think that certainly makes sense to consider planning for it. In terms of the cost, Transport 2050 is significantly unfunded. So what would be your suggestion out to 2050? Are you suggesting this should be funding in addition to the $30 billion being requested for Transport 2050, or would you suggest that some portions of Transport 2050 not be funded for this project?
I mean, as I stated earlier, like we believe that regional rail is something that can be implemented without compromising other investments that need to happen in this region. As I've mentioned, there are different models that are being used, around the world for funding projects other than getting money from higher levels of government, involving, land value capture or, getting, private sector investment. So, I mean, we've run some numbers. We know that it can work for phase 1. And I think I think the province should be considering other options, considering especially right now it's in a deficit because we are experiencing many challenges. We do need to be greatly expanding our transit network. Buses are overcrowded in the south of Fraser. At the same time, we are experiencing challenges where the money's going to come from. So I think, this is something, the money can work in many different ways, whether it comes from third parties, private sector, or, purely through the state sector.
And one of the other bases for Transport 2050 is to locate transit where people live. And one of the interesting maybe thoughts around the Highway 1 corridor is it's very car oriented. And when you drive from Abbotsford to Surrey, there's not a ton of housing there as projected for Fraser Highway, Willowbrook, and other portions of the Surrey area along the Fraser Highway corridor. So what would you say to TransLink if they were to say that we're asking senior levels of government and property taxation that TransLink receives to go towards transit where people actually live, as opposed to say, how do you deal with maybe the thought that on Highway 1, in order to drive ridership, it would require a significant amounts of parking and riding?
I mean, that's a great question. I think when one is designing a transit network, there's always a balance between, okay, do you build to where people are right now versus do you build where, let's say, the corridor is the cheapest and most logical, and then plan for future development. In my personal opinion, I think we need to do both. And I think, for instance, if I use the example of the Township of Langley, our planned station at Carvolth would be adjacent to the existing bus loop. And, having visited that area several times, I can see that there's already a tremendous amount of growth that's happening in that area. So I think it's, I think it's going to be a mixture of both. And I think, we need to be looking at, our region is growing rapidly. It needs more transit. I think there's a way that we can basically find a way to serve everybody and make everybody happy.
All right. I appreciate your delegation, and leave it up to council to follow up.
Okay.
Great. Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you.
So we have a presentation now from staff regarding emergency management and wildfire risk. And I appreciate the patience as we deferred this from the last meeting to this one. So please come forward.
That's new.
Okay, good afternoon, Your Worship, members of council. At the January 27th regular meeting, council directed staff to present in Q1 2025 an update on the evolving 2024 and 2025 emergency response plans, including, but not necessarily limited to, ongoing volunteer recruitment, new legislative requirements, and any needed emergency operations center requirements. I'm joined today by Ms. Jaswell, who is our emergency program manager, who will be co-presenting with me today. In today's presentation, we'll be providing an update on the emergency management program and new legislation, the emergency response plan and priorities, the Community Wildfire Resiliency Plan, also known as CWRP, and recommendations, successes to date, and future opportunities, with an opportunity to ask any questions that you might have. I'll now hand it over to Ms. Jaswell.
Thank you, Chief Duroy, Your Worship, and members of council. It's a pleasure to be here today. I would like to start the presentation with a snapshot of the Township's Emergency Management Program. We have the Hazard Risk and Vulnerability Assessment, the Township Emergency Management Bylaw, which not only set the foundation for the program, but also guide the development of response plans and related hazard guides. There's also the Emergency Operations Center, Emergency Support Services, and related response training and exercises. And lastly, the program includes business continuity, helping to ensure the continuity of critical services in the event of an emergency, and public education and emergency communications, which focus on educating residents on personal preparedness and ensuring they remain informed during emergencies. Emergency management as a profession and a field of practice has evolved immensely over the last decade. Along the lines of this evolution, in 2024, the Emergency and Disaster Management Act, also known as EDMA, was brought into effect. EDMA takes an all-of-society approach, outlining 124 pages of legislative requirements, including, but not limited to, the integration of the 4 phases of emergency management, being prevention, mitigation, response, and recovery, incorporating climate change and risk considerations when developing plans, the requirement for business continuity plans, the legal requirement to engage and consult with Indigenous governing bodies, and the need to understand the disproportionate impacts and realities faced by the intersectionally disadvantaged within our community. To ensure our community is prepared to respond to and recover from an event, a high-level review of the existing emergency response plan was conducted. Findings revealed the following: the need to refocus the plan onto the Township of Langley, to separate the existing 500-plus page plan into an external document aimed at educating the community on emergency management within the township, and on creating operational guidelines. This decision was made intentionally to not only align with best practices, but also other communities within our region. The need to shift focus from a response plan to an emergency management plan, which would incorporate all phases of emergency management, not just response. The need to incorporate the new legislation and regulations to ensure compliance. And lastly, the need to update the operational guidelines to form centralized documents developed in coordination with key township departments and partner agencies. These guides would be living documents and would form the foundation of our EOC training and exercises. Given the current state of the program, we've identified the following key areas to focus our efforts. For the Emergency Operations Center, priorities include facility enhancements to Fire Hall 6, upgrading IT assets, mainly computers and display screens, and the implementation of an annual EOC staffing plan, starting with the orientation, which was facilitated in February of this year. With a greater focus on incorporating technology solutions, we'll focus on the following: exploring Alertable as a public alerting platform, using SharePoint to organize program information, and successfully deploying the Evacuee Registration Assistance Tool, also known as ERA, to provide timely support to residents displaced by emergencies. For ESS, the priorities include engaging the 20 ESS volunteers through monthly meetings, training, and exercises, preparing for a joint training session scheduled for May 7th with the City of Abbotsford and the City of Mission, which will not only build internal capacity, but foster relationships with neighboring jurisdictions, and developing plans for public education with a focus on Emergency Preparedness Week happening from May 4th to May 10th. And lastly, given these foundational changes, we see this as an opportunity to simplify and streamline plans and processes. Specifically, with the emergency management regulations being released this fall, we figure this will trigger a review and update of the emergency program bylaw, the hazard, risk, and vulnerability assessment, and subsequent operational guidelines. To help with some of the immediate operational and training needs, we've applied for $120,000 of provincial conditional grants through the Union of British Columbia Municipalities Community Emergency Preparedness Fund. I will pass it back to Chief DeRoy to share more about wildfire risk and actions taken to ensure our community is safe and prepared. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Jaswell. Considering the recent events in LA, we wanted to provide an update on the proactive steps the Township of Langley Fire Department and Township of Langley are taking to enhance our emergency preparedness. In 2023, utilizing UBCM grant funding, a CWRP was completed for the Township of Langley. CWRPs are an opportunity to proactively manage wildfire risk and increase community resilience to wildfire. The wildfire threat showed that 94% of the township's accessible wildland-urban interface was rated at low or very low. As outlined in the CWRP, with the majority of the wildland-urban interface being private land and the overall wildfire threat on public land being low to very low, there are only a few on-the-ground actions that the Township of Langley can take to directly lower wildfire risk. Thus, mitigating key wildfire risks and vulnerabilities for the municipality will largely fall under the following categories. Fire smart education for residents and visitors, planning, development of more fire-resistant communities, training, equipment, and emergency planning, fire smart vegetation management. In this regard, we have established a fire smart coordinator. We have updated our website with fire smart messaging. Postcard with a QR code and a link to our website is being mailed out to approximately 10,000 residents that live in the rural areas. Bus shelter ads, social media campaign, and a newspaper ad have all been completed. The Township of Langley has already implemented fire smart elements into the Brookswood-Fernridge Community Plan in the form of a Development Permit Area, or DPA, for neighborhood forest fire hazard reduction, and discussions are underway between the Planning Department and the Fire Department regarding our official Community Plan, or OCP, and other related plans. The new Fire Hole 5 in Brookswood-Fernridge and adjacent landscaping will also include fire smart elements and considerations. In 2024, the Township of Langley Fire Department purchased a Structural Protection Unit, or SPU, trailer is shown in the picture, and we continue to acquire the necessary wildfire equipment to outfit the SPU. Plans are underway to train a team of our members as wildfire instructors, who will then turn and train a large percentage of our firefighters to the BC Wildfire Service standards over the next 2 years. This will not only enhance our service delivery to our residents, but will ensure that our members have the required training and certifications to be deployed within the province if necessary. Once the training has been completed, we will collaborate with our wildfire partners to organize cross-training between our organizations to enhance our operational readiness. Regarding the EOC-DOC, our documentation and personnel have been updated. Some of our IT-related equipment has been refreshed and or enhanced. Training is underway with plans to run an exercise in the fall. Regarding vegetation management, there are a number of bylaws that assist us with this, such as the Tree Protection Bylaw, Fire Prevention Bylaw, and the Community Standards Bylaw. Several steps have been taken to enhance our operational readiness and to strengthen our resilience, not only as a department, but also as a community. With council support, we have added additional staffing and apparatus, have enhanced our training. The new Fire Hole 5 is underway for Brookswood-Fernridge, which will not only reduce response times for those areas, but for the rest of the township as well. In the fall of 2024, Ms. Jaswell joined our team as the Township of Langley's Emergency Program Manager. Ms. Jaswell is our emergency program's first regular full-time exempt manager. The Township of Langley Fire Department and Ms. Jaswell have been proactively working to update, enhance, streamline our documentation and processes, as well as bringing our EOC-DOC up to today's standards with the latest technology. Some areas have been identified for enhancement. As a department, we've been resourceful, looking at every opportunity to enhance the level of service we can provide to our residents through a combination of grant funding and using our existing budget. In the last 2 years, we've applied for over $320,000 in grant funding. That concludes our presentation. We'll now open up to any questions that you might have.
Right.
Thank you.
We'll start with Councillor Ferguson.
Oh, yes, thank you very much for coming today. Excellent presentation. Firstly, Chief, I wanted to thank you and your staff. There was a fire right beside my house the other day, in fact, two fires, and we called one in, and your team was there to help, and myself and my wife and my family really appreciate you and the services of the fire department. I did want to ask you more of a kind of an information-based from history. We've had emergency preparation services and other things over the years under Ginger Sherlock or something. Is this similar or is it somewhat different, if I may?
Through your worship, that's correct. As you know, it was a joint program back in the day, and Ms. Sherlock did help oversee in a contract position. So Ms. Jaswell now being with us with the township will be able to provide that direct oversight over the township's emergency program.
Okay, that's it, and you can pass on my thanks, myself and my wife, to your partner. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Councillor Martins.
Thank you, and thank you both for being here again. And just a couple of observations, actually, not questions. Ms. Jaswell, I just want to welcome you to this position, and you come highly regarded by your colleagues. When I was at the Justice Institute a couple of weeks back, speaking with several of them, we are very fortunate as a township to have you here. Yeah. And I just wanted to comment specifically about the wildfire urban interface risk mitigation slide. I love this. I love that it's a very fulsome approach between the public education, the training, planning of our communities, and vegetation management, equipment. You got everything covered off, and it gives me confidence that we're in really good hands with our fire department, management and personnel, and just being really proactive about, like you said, what happened in LA is just horrible, and let's ensure that we as a community are prepared. So thank you very much.
Worship, thank you.
Councillor Bailey?
So, Chief, I'm looking at a few things. One, I'm really glad that education is up front and center here. That is a huge component of any of this. Now, luckily, not many people have been in a disaster zone. Unfortunately, I have. So I have to ask the question, the new Fire Hall 5 is being built to post-disaster standards, so it can become a center of refuge during a disaster?
Through your worship, that's correct. It will be built to the latest standards and energy efficient standards as well.
So can I ask how the other halls will stand up if we have a shake or something like that?
Through your worship, that's a good question. Obviously, they were built to the standards of the day. As Japan found out, being a very prepared country, you just never know what's going to happen. So it's hard to predict. But.
Yeah, because I have significant concerns, especially around Hall 8, the current Hall 8, and a couple others. So also looking at, talking about the interface, I'm surprised it's ranked that low down in the south end, in Brookswood, Fernridge, and all that kind of stuff. I was really glad to hear that you guys are looking at interface prevention and education, because Brookswood is pretty vulnerable to, especially in the future with more growth down there, to interface fires. Your opinion on that?
Through your worship, that's correct. Even though the risk is low to very low now, we still would rather be proactive and plan and prepare now, because that could easily change in the future.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Yeah, I appreciate the presentation. I think it was good to catch up with you on this after, deciding to implement, I think, a more modern, progressive, and expanded emergency response program specific to the Township of Langley, given the unique challenges that we have from an urban interface to many rural areas as well. So I certainly appreciate everything that you've been doing to implement this program and continue to provide feedback to council on what iterative additional investments you need us to consider to ensure that we iteratively keep up with what's required, as opposed to, not building a fire hall for 20 years and maybe not expanding the service, not providing the training budgets that are required for a full-time service of our size, and continuing to iteratively add to those investments so that we do not fall behind again in the future. And I very much appreciate the very diplomatic, professional approach you and your team have taken over the last couple of years to continue to really improve our fire service as we continue to grow and projected to become a municipality of over 200,000 people, with a range of issues from rural areas that are potentially vulnerable to wildfire risk on the Fraser River, and then from some very densifying corridors like 200th Street. You have a unique municipality, say, versus the fire department in New Westminster, and certainly appreciate the complexities and the professionalism that you're bringing to bear on dealing with them, and continuing to inform council on what more we can do to help you do that.
Thank you, Worship. Without your support from council, we wouldn't be successful either. So thank you.
And very much appreciate the presentation, and keep up the good work. Thank you.
Very much. Thank you.
Okay, so we're going to move to E1, reports to council, 72nd Avenue and 248th Telegraph Trail four-way stop review. Councillor Rent.
I would like to move option 2 of that report.
I'll second that. Do you wish to speak to it?
No.
Wish to speak to it? All right. Councillor Richter?
Yeah, I think this is the best option for the area. I did have a question about cost, because the report says it can be accommodated in the existing budgets. but it still doesn't say what the cost will be.
Your worship, to Council Director, the costs are nominal. We estimate $5,000 to $10,000.
Okay, thank you.
Councilor Martins?
Thank you. I just want to be clear. So option 2, we're looking at the second one, that council directs staff to convert the intersection at 72nd and 248th Street to a 4-way stop with overhead flashing beacons. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. I'm a little perplexed by that recommendation. I don't know. I would love to hear some reasoning for why we would want to move that. When the staff report actually indicated the staff have done considerable evaluation of the intersection, and they said none of the criteria for installing a 4-way stop from the Transportation Association of Canada have been met. And they were actually recommending against it. It's like on the last page of the report, based on the review, staff do not recommend any changes to the intersection at this time. I'm just wondering, so we've heard the science from staff and the data, why are we ignoring that and wanting to go ahead with a 4-way stop when it says it'll actually have negative implications for movement of traffic?
No answer for you, Councilor Martins.
So our answer is we're ignoring the staff recommendation entirely.
I think the answer would be if you don't
Professionals?
support the motion, you would vote against it.
Yeah, and I would say, I just want that on the record, that the motion is going against recommendations of the professionals.
Yeah, I think that's in the report. Councilor Richter?
Yeah, I just wanted to add a comment relative to the need for it at that intersection. And I think the need is probably going to be accelerated with a 4,000 permit liquor license going into one of the farms at that intersection. They're going to need that 4-way stop in order to facilitate traffic flow. Thank you.
Yeah, I'll call the question on second item under EE1. That carries. Councilor Martins opposed. E2, Fort Langley Cenotaph Restoration. I'll move it. Seconded by Councilor Pratt. Ms. Bauer, I think I have a referral here. I'm just going to go straight to that. That the staff recommendation report to council and plaza options be referred to the Heritage Advisory Committee, Remembrance Day Committee in Fort Langley, and the Fort Langley Community Association for consultation, feedback, and suggestions for council to consider. Is there a seconder to that? Seconded by Councilor Bailey. I think, the report is pretty clear that something needs to be done, but I think there's some good options and suggestions in there. And I think something as important as the Fort Langley Cenotaph, we should be cautious and I think consult with any member, any group in the community that wants to be consulted with. And I think it's appropriate to hear suggestions from those groups listed and what they think we should do. Councillor Ferguson.
Oh, yes, I just wanted to know, I don't know if you need an amendment or not, whether there's an opportunity for, and I think we only have one Legion in Langley now, the Aldergrove Legion, to participate in the process.
Yeah, we could certainly look at an amendment to add them to the list, Councilor Ferguson. Right now, it includes Heritage Advisory Committee, Remembrance Day Committee in Fort Langley, the Fort Langley Community Association. So you wish to, I can come back to you with an amendment. I'll come back to you. Councilor Bailey?
Yeah, if we're going to do this, let's do it right. So I really believe that let's go and consult with the organizations in the area. I really support going to the Legion and make sure that we do it properly. It sounds like in the past it has been glued together, the monument itself, and there's not much more important than the recognition of doing remembrance properly. So it's in support of this.
Councilor Kunst?
Yeah, thank you for that amendment.
That's a referral, just to be clear.
Or a referral, because I know I've already gotten an email about this, and and I recognize also that the staff have always, or recognize that it's a very sensitive thing that we want to do here. So I just want to support that referral.
Councilor Martins?
Yeah, thank you, and I appreciate the referral. I too have received communications already about this one. I'm just wondering, considering the public input that we are going to pursue, which is great, any anticipated time frame that it would take to go through that process?
Your worship, to Councillor Martins, it may take several months, just depending on organization, staff availability, and resource.
Okay, and in the spirit of doing it right, I'm just wondering if, in the meantime, if we can do any sort of mitigation or temporary repairs. I know that was talked about in the report as well, without changing fully the monument at this time till we know better what the people have to say.
Did you have an answer to that, Mr. Gunnar? Go ahead.
Your worship, to Councillor Martins, staff would continue monitoring the situation, assessing it, and if there's any further deterioration or urgency required, would be reporting back to council and seeking direction.
Excellent, thank you.
So, Councillor Ferguson, you wish to make an amendment?
Yes, I'd like to make an amendment that we add the Aldergrove Legion into the group of consultant.
Yeah, I'll second that. Is there any discussion on the amendment? Seeing none, call the question on that amendment. That carries unanimously. Now back to the referral as amended. Seeing no other discussion, I'll call the question on the referral of E2. That carries unanimously. Item E3, Canada Water Agency grant programs, moved by Councillor Pratt, seconded by Councillor Rint. Is there any discussion on E3? Councillor Ernst.
Oh, no, sorry.
No, you're good on E3? All right. Any other discussion on E3? So none, call the question on E3. That carries unanimously. E4, 2025 UBCM Next Generation 911 Program, moved by Councillor Rint, seconded by Councillor Bailey. Any discussion on E4? Seeing none, call the question on E4. That carries unanimously. Item E5, a capital request for 202 Street roadworks. I'll move it, seconded by Councillor Pratt. Is there any discussion on E5? Okay, seeing none. Ms. Bauer, I'll move that amendment to expand the scope of the project. We're not seeing it, Ms. Bauer. Do you know how to? Can you slide that up a bit for us? Right there. Yeah, I think that's the end of it. So I'm moving to amend it with the items in bold. Is there a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Rent. Is there any discussion on these? Councillor Richter.
Okay, so the price tag was, I believe, $1 million. What is it now with these amendments?
Well, the 450 has changed to 650.
Okay. And what else will it mean? I mean, that's the design. What about the actual building then?
I believe this is only for the detailed engineering design stage.
And why do we have to increase it as by that significant amount?
Because we've added, as you can see in bold, we've added 80th Avenue from 201 Street to 203 Block if approved by council.
Okay, thank you.
So that, I'll call the question on the amendment to E5. That carries. Councillor Richter opposed. Ms. Bauer, I think I had a second amendment here. Yes, I do. Amendment number 2. Yeah, that traffic calming be installed on 82nd Avenue between 201 Street and 202 Street, and on 201 Street between 82nd Avenue and 82B Avenue. Completion before September 1st, seconded by Councillor Bailey. Is there any other discussion on that amendment? See none, call a question on that amendment. That carries unanimously. So now back to the main motion as amended. Is there any other discussion on E5? No, call a question on E5 as amended. That carries with Councillor Richter opposed. Go to E6, Agricultural Land Commission application number 100466. Is there a mover? Moved by Councillor Rent. Seconded by Councillor Pratt. Is there any discussion on E6? Seeing none, call the question on E6. That carries unanimously. I move to E7, development permit application number 101463. I'll move it, seconded by Councillor Rint. Is there any discussion on E7? Councillor Richter.
Yeah, I see we received a letter on table today with regards to this. Now, I appreciate that a permit concerns form, character, and whatever, but it doesn't necessarily include any form of zoning. The letter raised a question with regarding a temporary construction of 72nd B exiting onto 72nd Avenue with some traffic monitoring around that, I guess during the construction period. So my question to staff would be, can the questions raised in this letter be considered under the development permit, or are they more a zoning bylaw?
Through your worship to Councillor Richter, they certainly can be considered in terms of form, setting, and character. The item under question, I think, is some of the transportation movements there. So the item pertaining to use and density has already been resolved by council by granting the zoning. Also supplemental to that, council in April of last year considered a report from our engineering group outlining 4 options for traffic movements in the area. They elected to advance one option, which was to have an access from a northerly townhouse site to try and resolve some of the traffic movements there, but the strata was not in support of that. So this item has been considered by council previously with respect to the rezoning items and items generally on 72B Avenue and 204th Street. Those costs ranging from as little as $1,000 for traffic signage to $1.6 million to complete that road leg, which is dedicated but not constructed. So to date, that's where that item sits. Back, I guess, to your original question, it's meant to focus on form, setting, and character only, your worship.
So I could not suggest then a referral of this letter to staff for consideration?
Through your worship to staff, it has been received and considered by staff to date in its receipt. As it pertains to the form, setting, and character of the building, as noted previously, the rezoning and the correction of its density has been resolved by council's adoption of the zoning bylaw.
Okay, but I thought these were more of a temporary nature during the construction. Okay, thank you.
All right, seeing no other discussion, I'll call the question on E7. That carries unanimously. Item E8, I'll move it, seconded by Councillor Rint. Is there any discussion on E8? Seeing none. Okay, well, you guys got to get to it. Sir Richter, go ahead.
Yeah, so is the library, the Aldergrove Library, definitely moving to this site? Has that decision been made? Or will it be made if we vote for this? Because I still believe we should be consulting the public on the location of the library. They seem to be quite happy with its current location.
Mr. Cooner?
To your worship, to Councillor Richter, I believe there was a council resolution in relation to that item, and the development permit application itself is form, setting, and character of the site, and within the commercial site plan, there is a consideration for the library. At this time, we are not advising council whether there's actually any formal agreements with the library in relation to them relocating to that location, but the site plan itself does consider a signature library on the plan.
Okay, can that space be used for alternate purposes should the library not be moved? Is that a fair question to ask on a DP? Character, I guess.
To your worship, to Councillor Richter, yes, I believe there is opportunities because it's a commercial unit there to alternative uses in the event the library does not locate there.
Okay. So I'm going to support this because I think it's time to do something with that piece of land, as long as it's quite clear that we're not requiring the library to move there at this time. And I'm not going to put that in as an amendment. I'm just saying that is my understanding with which I'm supporting this particular DP. Thank you.
Councillor Ferguson?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. If I may, through the chair, I have a question. First of all, it's a positive, both this one and the previous E7, positive things for both the community and the residents in the future. My question, if I may, through the chair, I was wondering if you could update us on Bylaw 5901 quickly on the fact we're waiving development cost charges for certain reasons, both for myself's information, which I'm aware of, and also for any member of the public, me listening, if I may, through the chair.
To your worship, to Councillor Ferguson, the proposal essentially on E7 and E8 both is consistent with the provisions of the DCC waiver bylaw. I believe that's the bylaw you had mentioned, 5901.
Correct.
So as an eligible development under that bylaw, accordingly a resolution has been included for council's consideration to waive the applicable development cost charges.
Yeah, and actually, just a supplemental to that, I mean, the reality of that, because they're putting in a housing component that complies, and you might want to comment briefly on the housing component that does apply.
Through yours to Councillor Ferguson, the enabling legislation and the adoption of the DCC waiver bylaw adopted by council as amended earlier this term pertains to the residential component of the application, as Mr. Cooner had mentioned. Eligible development is defined in the bylaw, and upon review, given the partnership with the township and the BC Builds, does fall into that category of eligible development and is eligible for council's consideration of a waiver, and as such is presented for council's consideration.
Yeah, thank you very much. And I think the key point of that is the BC Builds and the fact that they're going to be providing the type of housing that would be very positive to many citizens that apply and are in a situation where they could live there. Thank you very much, and I'd like to compliment staff as well.
So, Mr. Cooner, following up on Councillor Richter's comments, I think if we're showing a library, there may be an expectation of some that there is going to be a library. So it may be appropriate for you to advance to council before the summer break, a capital request and or some sort of confirmation about public consultation on the future, whether that'll become a library space or not. It'd be something that you'd probably want to know before the tenant improvement stage is getting near.
Staff will take that in under advisement.
Because I think if there, is a desire to move forward with this, but leave this library decision separate, there's no harm with that. But I think it'd be appropriate to get that decision made for staff potentially within the 2026 5-year financial plan. All right. So with that, I'll call the question on E8. That carries unanimously. Reports to Council E9, rezoning application number 100757. Does anybody wish to move the recommendation? Moved by Councillor Rint, seconded by Councillor Bailey. Is there any discussion on E9? Councillor Richter.
Okay, so if we consider this, what exactly are we saying? Are we saying we agree with the strata and we're not going to pursue a larger daycare there? Is that what we're saying? Because the wording isn't clear to me on this motion.
To your worship, to Councillor Richter, essentially staff is recommending that council abandon the bylaw based on the fact that there was a condition in relation to seeking strata approval. The proponent was not able to satisfy that condition, therefore we're seeking abandonment of the bylaw because they haven't satisfied the condition set.
Okay, so what does this do to the proponent?
They will not be granting, council will not be granting final reading, therefore the site-specific text amendment for a daycare within the CD zone will not proceed.
Does it leave open the option for them to look at another location for their daycare? I mean, this council has heard several times from young families the importance of more daycare facilities, particularly in Willoughby.
To your worship, to Councillor Richter, this is zoning application site-specific text amendments for this specific site. In the event they choose a different location and bring forward an application, that does not prevent them from doing that.
Thank you.
Councillor Martins.
Thank you. I guess my questions were along the same lines. I appreciate the clarification from Mr. Cooner. Just so that I'm clear when we're voting, green means no daycare. Red means daycare. Is this correct?
That can be characterized correct, yes, but at the same time, there is an alternative resolution that council can just move granting final reading as well.
Yeah, I believe that's correct, Councilor Martins. If this were to fail, I believe there would need to be a second resolution to grant final reading.
A second resolution. So is this not the final? I guess this is where I'm confused. So
Mr. Cooner, maybe explain it again.
In the event the bylaw is abandoned, therefore, the daycare, that does not mean you've granted final reading to the daycare, meaning that they have the zone. Therefore, if that's the intention, council would consider moving, granting final reading to the bylaw rather than voting against abandoning it. So in the event council votes green or in favor of abandoning the bylaw, that means the bylaw has been abandoned and there would be no site-specific zone amendment, text amendment for the daycare.
okay, so green light means no daycare, red light means daycare.
No, red light would mean that
Sorry.
you're voting against the abandonment. However, you would have to then either move granting final reading to allow the daycare.
Okay.
Councilor Kunst?
So should they not be granted the daycare, would they still be able to continue on as they currently are? Because I believe they wanted to expand their daycare through.
Your Worship, Councilor Kuntz, they cannot expand. However, the status quo of how they were operating previously can continue.
Okay, great, thank you.
Right, with that, call the question on E9. That carries with Councilor Martins, Councilor Richter opposed. Bylaws for final adoption, I1, Bylaw Review Project 2025, moved by Councilor Rint, seconded by Councilor Bailey. Is there any discussion on I1? Seeing none, call the question on I1. That carries unanimously. Move on to I2, repeal of bylaw number 5766, moved by Councilor Rint. So I'll second it. Is there any discussion on I2? Seeing none, call the question on I2. That carries. Councilor Martins, Councilor Richter, Councilor Kunst opposed. I3, election and political science bylaw, bylaw number 6118, 6119, moved by Councilor Rint, seconded by Councilor Bailey. Is there any discussion on I3? Seeing none, call the question on I3. That carries. Councilor Martins, Councilor Richter, Councilor Kunst opposed. Mayor and council report. Does anybody wish to make a report? Councilor Kunst, go ahead.
On May 5th, 2025, we will commemorate the 80th anniversary of the Netherlands' liberation from Nazi occupation. As a child of Dutch immigrants, along with many others living in the township of Langley, this stands as a sobering reminder of the sacrifices made by the Allied forces, in particular the 1.1 million Canadians who fought valiantly in World War II. In 2019, with unanimous support of council, we voted to plant thousands of orange tulips at Derrick Doubleday Arboretum. These tulips continue to bloom every spring, serving as a reminder of the special bond between the Netherlands and Canada, forged through the sacrifices of our men and women who fought and gave their lives for freedom. 5 years later, I've sought to commemorate this day in a more personal way, aiming to bring it a little closer to home. Through research and conversations with various individuals, I discovered that 2 of Langley's own sons fought and tragically lost their lives in Holland, and their graves are located in the Netherlands. Through a network of connections, I was introduced to the organization called Faces to Graves, which is dedicated to sharing the stories of individuals buried in these graves. I'm honored to be invited to attend a special ceremony at the Canadian War Cemetery in Grosbeek on May 2nd, 2025. As I will be traveling in Europe at this time, I look forward to paying my respects to these 2 young men from Langley. Here is a brief bio about each of them. Joseph Jones was the son of Jack and Elizabeth Jones from Milner, BC. On September 20, 1943, at the age of 18 years old, he enlisted in Vancouver for active duty in the Canadian Army and joined the Calgary Highlander Regiment. On February 1st, 1945, as part of Operation Veritable, Joe and his regiment prepared to attack Weiler, a village near the Dutch and German border. The battle lasted 8 hours, resulting in the deaths of 15 Calgary Highlanders, including 21-year-old Private Joseph Jones from Langley. He died just months before the war ended and is buried at the Grosbeak Canadian War Cemetery. The second soldier is Robert Jameson, son of Robert and Jean Jameson from Willoughby. A headline from the Langley Advance on May 10, 1945 read, "Langley's holder of Purple Heart killed." A telegram informed his parents of his death on April 16, just before his 22nd birthday in June. Born in Vancouver, Robert grew up in Langley and enlisted in the Canadian Army in January 1943, joining the Calgary Highlanders in December. He was chosen to be a member of the American 1st Special Service Force, where he was twice wounded and awarded the Purple Heart. After the unit disbanded, he was assigned to the 48 Highlanders of Canada. His combat included Italy, France, Belgium, Holland, and Germany. Private Jameson died on April 16, 1945, at the age of 21, and is buried in the Holton Canadian War Cemetery in the Netherlands. Both Private Jones and Private Jameson's sacrifice stands as a testament to the incredible sacrifices made by the over 1.1 million Canadian men and women who fought in World War II. I've prepared a short slide presentation dedicated to these two young men from Langley who packed their bags and went off to war in 1943, both losing their lives mere weeks before the war's end. We will remember them.
Councilor Martins? Oh, go ahead.
Video.
Go ahead. It's a video. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Anything else, Councilor Kunst?
No, thank you. That's
Councilor
all.
Martins, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Kunst, for that. Shifting gears. I just wanted to mention a couple of things I had attended in the last week or two of interest. One was the Langley Hospice afternoon tea party yesterday in Fort Langley. It's their first of many events. It was very successful. And I always appreciate the good work that the Hospice Society does for Langley. The other was I went to Langley Skating Club's 50th anniversary. So it's pretty neat to realize that they have been around our community for 50 years now. And it was a really wonderful celebration. The final item I just wanted to mention, a few of us were at the Child and Youth Advocacy Center opening event through Encompass. And I just wanted to give a little bit of quick background. CYAC is what they're about. They provide collaborative services designed to provide a coordinated response to child abuse and crimes against children and youth. CYACs connect children, youth, and their families to services designed to meet their unique needs and assist them to navigate any system they may encounter, such as medical, criminal justice, and child protection. And the way that this works is that a child doesn't have to keep going through the system, speaking to each agency, being re-victimized and having to share their story of certain events. Rather, it can be one shop to hear it all at once, working in a coordinated fashion. And I have seen this at work in Vancouver for a number of years with the CYAC there that they call the Treehouse. It's been very effective and productive, and I always think things are better if everybody's working together rather than silos on these sorts of files. So it's pretty exciting time it's a heavy reason that we need this, but I'm really glad that people in our community have brought this together, and we now have this in Langley.
Councillor Ferguson?
Oh, yeah, thank you, and I did want to compliment the work done by Councillor Kuntz as well. I didn't realize the detail that her family is involved, and we were in Europe, I guess last year, and were able to visit some of the memorial sites, and the first comes to my mind is two citizens, and by the way, we did lose a family member in Europe, I guess some 80 or some odd years ago in one of the wars, and a number of our family did fight. I guess they would be my grandfathers and great-grandfathers. Major Ian Newby and his wife Doreen, they're members of something called the Last Post Society that celebrates every day, 365 days of the year, a celebration of a memorial. And I believe there's going to be a special event today for this particular reason. Again, a compliment Councillor Kuntz. Now back to announcements. Last week, myself and a few members of this council participated in a hospital gala that raised money for the Langley Memorial Hospice Society. I'd like to thank certainly Manjeet and Darcy Gill for the work they put in, and Bob and Mimi Sanga, all Township of Langley residents, at raising money for a very good fund, the Hospital Society, and for putting funds in the hospital. And one more thing is that the tree ceremony for Memorial Trees will be held this year in at McLeod Athletic Park. I believe Friday the I think 23rd of April. So the public are invited to this event where we commemorate members of our community and also veterans, or not veterans, or pioneers of the community. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Bailey?
Yeah, a couple of things. I was also at the Encompass event, and it was a blanketing ceremony. And I was chosen to be what they officially call a witness. They give you 50 cents, which was the cost of the blankets in those days. And then you get up and say what you feel at the moment. And I have to say there was 4 of us that were chosen, and all 4 of us were very honored to be able to speak to what was going on, the honoring of the people with the blankets. And it was a wonderful event. I want to thank Councillor Kuntz for drawing our attention to this, because the Canadians, the Cinderella Army, it was nicknamed, as they came up the Atlantic Wall and fought, and they actually revolutionized urban warfare by their actions. And in 1997, my then 15-year-old son and I visited Holden, with all 1,352 Canadians buried at that cemetery, and where one man maintained that cemetery in immaculate condition, and his family has carried it on. Unfortunately, not many Canadians go there, and very few know that it is actually Canadian soil at the Holden Cemetery. And if you're ever over in that area, also in around Ypres in Belgium, there are incredible care taken for our veterans who didn't come home. So thank you very much, Councillor Kunst.
Councillor Richter?
Yes, I just wanted to acknowledge the passing of a longtime community member and an absolutely passionate advocate for disability, Sasha Edinburgh. And I was hoping that council could please send flowers to her memorial service.
No issue.
Thank you.
Councillor Ferguson?
Oh, yes, I did miss one thing. Last April the 2nd, I participated, as well as Councillor Bailey as well, the annual AGM of the Glen Valley Diking District. And that's an important, protecting our dikes along the river and inland around the Glen Valley area. And this is a participation, not just Langley Township, but the Abbotsford people as well. So they had staff from Abbotsford and staff from Langley. And it's very important that this group of farmers and residents protecting those dikes and working mostly voluntarily to look after the needs of any potential flooding that may incur in the future. So I wanted to thank Mr. Rule and his team for coming out and participating in the AGM of the Glen Valley Diking Commission. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I was also going to mention the passing of Miss Ettenberg, who I had the pleasure of knowing for a few years, and really appreciated her advocacy as well, and the events at GPRC and so on. So thanks, Councillor Richter, for that suggestion. I think that's a great one. I also wanted to wish our colleague in Langley City, Paul Albrecht, a great retirement after 30 plus years of stellar service to the Township of Langley. I really appreciate everything he's done and wish him well in retirement. And again, look forward to continuing to work with him as a councillor of Langley City. And I also wanted to mention for everyone here and the public that Mr. Cooner is no longer acting CAO of the Township of Langley. He has been formally appointed as the CAO of the Township of Langley, and I wanted to congratulate him for that appointment, and a very positive and constructive first year, Mr. Cooner. So thank you very much, and thank you very much for being willing to work here at the Township of Langley with myself and council, the senior management staff, in public service. So thank you very much, and congratulations on your appointment. And with that, move on to Mayor Metro Vancouver Regional Committee report. Does anybody have a report? Councillor Bailey.
Yeah, it's been a journey. I started out on the last year on the Climate Action Committee. Since then, recently it turned into the Air Quality and Climate Action Committee. And on Friday, it changed again to the Air Quality, Climate Action and Flood Resilience Committee. And it was a very interesting discussion, especially since Councillor Ferguson and I had been at the diking. And as it came to one where they were starting to look at the different variables, I brought up the issue of dredging. It hadn't been considered. I spoke to Bedford Channel and how the difficulties were encountering there, and believe me, Richmond and Maple Ridge and a couple other representatives there fully supported, including dredging in there, and also talking about not just diking but also erosion control, as the Kwantlen are very concerned about McMillan Island and the erosion that goes on there annually. So now they have accepted that in the flood resilience, they will include looking at dredging as an inclusive thing, as it is a problem, and we have to deal with many levels of government, and it's kind of like playing whack-a-mole, trying to figure out how to get this thing to move ahead. So it looks like Metro is going to be supportive of giving some of us jurisdictions a hand when it comes to dredging. So I look forward to talking to the Kwantlen about how we can work together on this.
Let's move on to items for information. I'll note Nathan Creek Wetlands has been released from close, as has item L2. Regarding to that, naming request was also granted for Reed McDonald Field and Aldergrove Athletic Park, which I think is great. Is there any questions on items for information M1 through 5? Councillor Kunst.
Yeah, I just want to thank staff for their very quick response to the commercial truck parking issue. So, yeah, that was all.
Councillor Bailey.
Yeah, I'd like to talk to M1. I read in the notes there the history of what went on, and I was looking forward to the presentation, but since it's been delayed twice, I'm going to move ahead with this anyways. I'm going to move that we put the hours of operation for the baseball back to where it was prior, and that means allowing 4 games, not 3, and to be open from 8 a.m. to 9 p.m. so we can have more youth baseball players have access to a field.
Is there a seconder to that? Seconded by Councillor Rent. Is there any?
I think it's.
Go ahead, Councillor Bailey.
I think it's very important that I've been involved in sports. I was lucky to be able to had a family that encouraged me and supported me in sports, and I know many people that I played lots of different kinds of sports with would probably not have turned out to be positive people in the community, to put it nicely, and I have seen that as coaching over a period of 40 years, the positive impact that sports have on children, learning how to socialize better and also to be healthier. So any chance I get to be able to have kids have more access, and I'm going to support it.
Councillor Martins.
Yeah, so I'm noting in the memorandum from staff, the reason the hours were reduced to the existing ones, the 10 a.m. to 8 p.m., was in response to residents' concerns. So, and is that only for the last season, or how long has that reduction of hours been in place for? Does staff know?
Through your worship, we put that in place last season, so 2024.
Okay, so it's a relatively new thing. What sort of concerns were identified by residents? You don't have to go into great detail. Was it noise, parking?
Noise and conduct of the U9 teams playing there. So that was brought up with the association and the coaches.
Okay. And has there been any consideration for maybe identifying another location? I know we only have so many parks, but just wondering how we've landed on this one in particular, because I'm mindful of the resident concerns while also recognizing the need for spaces for the sport.
Yes, through your worship. So we moved a few of the games to the I believe it was Dorothy Peacock, and we're using portable pitching mounds to turn softball fields into baseball fields. So that's how we did that. So then we were able to reduce the games from 4 to 3 on the weekends.
Okay. And are they in need now? Is that what's happening, that North Langley Diamond Sports doesn't have enough and they're asking for more?
I'm not aware of a request for more at this time, but I would have to check with staff on that.
Okay, thank you. So can I just ask a question through the chair to the mover? So why are we looking at extending the hours then, if we've came up with a solution last year?
Do you want to answer that? Sure. Go ahead, Councillor Bailey.
Pretty well every sporting organization in Langley right now is looking to maximize. An awful lot of them have waiting lists, and it would be a different situation if they were complaining about people being drunk and adults playing music and all that. But I'm willing, and I think the vast majority of the people are willing to listen to 9-year-olds playing. And every chance I get to open up more time for sports, because there are too many kids that are denied access to sports, I'm going to take that opportunity.
Okay, I really appreciate that. I don't recall a request from North Langley Diamond Sports, so expressing this need to all of council, or yeah, that they have a waiting list and they're urgently needing more, another extra game a week for, or 2 games a week for, at Fort Langley for the U9s. Did I miss a communication to council making this
Mr. Gunner, I
request?
don't think there's been one to council, right?
I don't believe so. I'm not aware
No.
of any.
Okay, so how do we know that there are waiting lists? I mean, I get that that is probably the reality, but where is this information coming from?
So I think, Councillor Martins, we have a motion moved by a councillor. It's been seconded. If you wish to refer it for more information, that would be the appropriate course of action.
Yeah, if I could, I'd like to refer it, that we could reach out to North Langley Diamond Sports to see what their needs are, if that's the case. So
Is there a
that
seconder to that?
I'll second it if we can add in public consultation.
Well, you can move an amendment on the referral. So Councillor Martins moved that. Is there a seconder? Is that seconded or not seconded? Yes, seconded. Great, so that's seconded. Is there any other discussion? Okay, I'll call the question on the referral. M1.
I'm opposed.
Yep, that's defeated with Councillor Pratt, Councillor Rint, Mayor Woodward, Councillor Bailey, Councillor Ferguson, Councillor Van Popta opposed. Is there any other discussion on that, Councillor Martins?
No, I just want to be clear, it's not that I'm against providing spaces for children to play sports. It just seems strange that a year ago, based on feedback from the community, it was rolled back. And the person I talked to at North Langley Diamond Sports talked about the amendments and adjustments that staff have spoken about to make things work. So I'm just not clear on why we're rolling it back.
Councillor Van Popta, go ahead. Do you have
Yeah,
your hand?
sorry, I'm having a hard time finding my raise hand emoji here.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to clarify that we're able to talk to associations on our own. Not everything has to be formalized through council and through email. Like, we have the ability to reach out to and do our own research. And so understanding that they have a wait list is you know, I know that we have that opportunity to verify that information on our own. And so I just wanted to commend Councillor Bailey for bringing this forward and seeing that we are always expanding our opportunities to user groups for kids.
Yeah, I agree. Councillor Richter?
Yes, I'm actually a little bit concerned about the neighbors. And I think before we make the decision to put it back to 4 games, we should probably survey the neighbors somehow to find out if they're okay with it. They might be very happy with the 3 games on Saturdays, I believe, that's currently in place now, and not want a 4th game. Perhaps it was the later game that caused the conduct concerns that were raised by the public. So I'd like to move, I guess, a deferral, or would it be a referral, maybe? The clerk.
Your worship, Councillor Richter, it would be a referral.
A referral for public consultation or
For a
neighbor
second.
consultation.
Yeah, is there a seconder to that? Seconded by Councillor Martins. Go ahead, Councillor Richter. Any more?
No, I really do think it was the neighbors that raised this issue. I think we have a due diligence need to speak with the neighbors and make sure they're going to be okay if we put it back. Otherwise, if a year from now, we'll probably be dealing with delegations of expressing concern in some way or another. I just want to make sure that the public has a say in this. Thank you.
Councillor Kunst?
So our delegate that was supposed to speak, was he speaking to this, right? Is that what, if I look into the delegation request, that was something that he was wanting to talk about? Is wanting to add more games to this park?
Mr. Cooner, do you have an idea? Go ahead.
Through your worship to Councillor Kunst, we don't know the exact request that Mr. Winter was going to make. However, the general topic was to discuss 9 youth baseball at Fort Langley Park.
Yeah, that's what I'm reading here. Okay, so is there a way that we can like come to some sort of happy medium here if 9U needs that space that it's available, that we're not eliminating that opportunity, or we're just opening it and blanket, so I mean I'd actually like to support the as many games as maybe bringing it back, but yeah, I don't know if there's a way to just find out if there's a need there, and then they can ask for it instead of just saying, okay, yeah, here we have it. So anyway, I will support it, but just asking that question.
Is that rhetorical or real?
No, it's is there a way, if we find out that they need more space, that they can then just use it, that it's not just going to be like, oh, here it is. But so it's just, yeah.
Sorry, if you're asking a question, I'm not clear what it is.
Okay, yeah, maybe I'm not explaining it very well, but we don't know if 9U needs the extra time, right? So it sounds to me like we don't know that yet, but we're saying, well, you can have it if you need it. So can we just give it to them if they request it?
Mr. Cooner, presumably if they don't want it, they wouldn't use it.
That is correct, and that may have been addressed in the first referral as well, I
believe so,
yes.
Okay, thanks.
Councillor Martins?
Yeah, I want to thank Councillor Van Popta for telling me how to do my job. I did actually.
It's not necessary, Councillor Martins. Can you please just speak to the referral motion?
It's okay for me to get lectured by other councillors,
Councillor Martins, can you
speak
please
back?
just speak to the referral?
Oh, okay, for sure. So, yeah, I spoke to North Langley Diamond Sports. I did make a phone call and had a conversation, and they actually explained to me exactly what staff did about the arrangement made with that particular location and why they reduced the hours, and they were mindful of the community complaints and concerns. So I am just trying to understand why we're doing this without anything coming to us asking for it or.
No, can you please speak to the referral, however?
No, I think I've said enough. Thank you.
Councillor Pratt?
Yeah, thank you, Worship. Through yourself to staff, is there a way to sort of remind council how many community issues or complaints were brought up on this to cause the change in hours last year?
Through your worship, I don't have those numbers in front of me, but we did begin getting complaints in 2022.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah. Councillor Van Popta, you had your hand up?
Sorry, Councillor Pratt just asked.
Okay, great. So we'll call the question on that referral. And that's defeated with Councillor Pratt, Councillor Rent, Mayor Woodward, Councillor Bailey, Councillor Ferguson, and Councillor Van Popta opposed. So now back to Councillor Kunst. Did you have anything further?
Not sure
No?
why that.
Okay, is any other discussion on M1? No, call the question on M1. That carries with Councillor Martins, Councillor Richter opposed. Is there any other discussion on items M1 through 5? No, seeing none. I want to thank staff for item N2. I think it was good to see that get that out there in the public and get a memo on the progress being made on a new municipal park out in Glen Valley. So I really appreciate that and looking forward to seeing a lot more information on that coming forward. Is there any other business? Yeah, Councillor Ferguson.
I pushed the button later.
Yeah.
Also, there's been a lot of history in M2 Nathan Creek wetlands for not a number of years, and a number of councillors and councils and mayors in the past have supported this wetlands project, and it's a win-win-win for the community. And yes, I want to thank you as well, Mr. Mayor. This is a really positive thing, and it's exciting for a potential and future municipal park. So I also want to give yourself and staff a compliment. This is really positive. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any other business? No, okay, so we get a Ms. Bauer for special closed, sorry, for the closed meeting. I've got an intergovernmental item, a legal item, and a second legal item. So that's for 3 items. Does anybody have an item for closed? Seeing none, get a motion to resolve into special closed. Moved by Councillor Bailey, seconded by Councillor Rent. All those in favor? Opposed, and that's carried. Get a motion to terminate. Moved by Councillor Rent, seconded by Councillor Pratt. All those in favor? Opposed, and that's carried. Thank you.